So after Southport, Keir Starmer said this.
I utterly condemn the far-right thuggery.
But after the Manchester Synagogue attack, Keir Starmer said this.
A vile individual committed a terrorist attack.
So why is it when it came to the far-right racists, Keir Starmer was able to connect the behaviour to an ideology, but when it comes to yesterday's attack, he doesn't seem to be able to do the same? The answer to that will show you just how far the Labour Party have fallen and the extent to which they'll try and control power, even if it puts you and me at risk. So we're going to look at that in this video, and make sure you stay to the end so you can see the full picture and then see how I think we can save our country. So just before we see how Keir Starmer responded, let's have a recap of what happened yesterday. And just a heads up, you might find this distressing.
We've killed him. Hell, Lucas.
Everybody else, get back! If you're not involved, move back! Get away! Somebody stay with casualty! Everybody else, he has a bomb! Go away!
He's got a bomb on him! He's got a bomb! Mate, he's got a Man, he's got a bomb on his jacket, mate! He's trying to go in a
This is really sad, and I pray that the peace of God will be with these families in this time. But when you see things like this, it makes you really wonder, what could have motivated someone like this? People might say it's just general anti-Semitism being on the rise. But let's be very, very clear. Many people might disagree with the state of Israel or may disagree with what they're doing in Palestine right now, and yet not go out and carry out something like this. And also when you consider that the person was wearing something that looked like explosives around his waist, you realize it's very reminiscent of the tactics that people who are driven by a particular type of ideology would use. And if you really want to make sure these kind of attacks don't happen again, surely you'd at least first recognize the ideology behind it. So let's see how Keir Starmer responded.
Good evening. Earlier today, on Yom Kippur, the holiest day for the Jewish community, a vile individual committed a terrorist attack that attacked Jews because they are Jews, and attacked Britain because of our values.
And as you listen to this, don't just pay attention to what he says, pay attention to what he doesn't say.
But Britain is also a country where Jewish buildings, synagogues, even schools require round-the-clock protection, where dedicated specialist security is necessary because of the daily threat of anti-Semitic hatred. Today's horrific incident shows why.
There's a lot of recognition that the Jewish people feel very unsafe right now, which is very important. But why do they feel unsafe? What ideology are they feeling endangered by?
And while this is not a new hate, this is something Jews have always lived with, we must be clear. It is a hatred that is rising once again. And Britain must defeat it once again.
What are we defeating exactly? Who are we up against? Where is the threat coming from? What's the ideology? Like, give us something.
And so on behalf of our country, I express my solidarity, but also my sadness that you still have to live with these fears. Nobody should have to do that. And so I promise you that I will do everything in my power to guarantee you the security that you deserve, starting with a more visible police presence protecting your community.
So if the protection is going to start with police presence outside of synagogues, then you're not really dealing with the hatred. Now, we all know clear as day the ideology behind this man. But before we call it out clear as day and talk about why Keir Starmer is unable to say it, let's just compare it to the response after Southport. And then we'll take a look at the suspect's background to show you why this matters so much.
I utterly condemn the far-right thuggery we've seen this weekend. Be in no doubt, those that have participated in this violence will face the full force of the law. The police will be making arrests, individuals will be held on remand, charges will follow, and convictions will follow. I guarantee you will regret taking part in this disorder, whether directly or those whipping up this action online and then running away themselves.
So listen to how forcefully he was speaking about the law coming down, not just on the far right, so he clearly labeled an ideology, but to anybody who's whipping up that hatred online. So he was very clear in his mind who the law is going after and what He wants the public to fight far-right thuggery. But when it comes to the Manchester synagogue attack, it's very vague, very, we feel for the Jews, and there's just general anti-Semitism on the rise with no indication about what kind of ideologies might be behind that, or what kind of ideologies we need to be on the lookout for. But best believe if this was somebody who, happened to be a Nigel Farage supporter or something, he'd be very, very, very clear about that. And now, again, right before we call out this ideology for what it is and look at why Keir Starmer cannot do it himself, just listen to a bit more background about the suspect to see why this is so shocking.
Do believe that he is this 35-year-old man, Jihad al-Shami. They say he is a British citizen of Syrian descent. We understand from what we've been able to find out about him that his family have lived in Greater Manchester for more than 30 years. Police have been seen searching his family home this evening. We understand he is a father. He appears to have worked as a tutor, teaching English and computer programming.
And who knows, maybe some of these kids were tutored by this man whilst he's being radicalized and radicalized and radicalized to the point where he carries out such an evil crime. And sadly, often we have people like this roaming around in our country. It was motivated by radical Islam. And you only need to look at three things to see how. Number one is his name. His name, Jihad al-Shami, literally means jihad for Syria, like struggle for Syria. For radical Islamists, jihad is a violent struggle to defend or promote Islam. And this is not just a response to October the 7th. This is something built into radical Islamist ideology. Number two was the method. Like, in addition to the knife and driving, he had a suicide belt on him. Now, in his case, it was fake. Sometimes, like Salman Abedi, people use like real ones, but this is straight out of the ISIS playbook. One of the reasons they wear these fake ones as well is because it makes the police unsure about what to do. Is it real? Is it not? And it gives them extra time for them to commit their evil. Again, radical Islamist ideology. And thirdly, the target. He attacked a synagogue on the holiest day of the Jewish calendar. And targeting Jews is exactly what radical Islamists do. They even point to verses like Surah 2:191. Now, obviously, this is true. It's not all Muslims. But that doesn't change what happened yesterday. And it doesn't change the growing number of people in this country that are being radicalized. And unless we call it out, nothing will change. So it's all well and good to say we need to counter anti-Semitic hate, but unless you're going to stop the number of people arriving on small boats, many of them coming from countries where this ideology is rampant, unless you're going to deport the foreign nationals who are on the terror watch list at taxpayer expense, who teach and preach these things, and unless you're going to shut down the network of mosques where a lot of radical Islamist ideology is being taught, you're not changing anything. You're not protecting no one, Keir Starmer. You're just protecting yourself. So why is it that Keir Starmer does not have the balls to call out radical Islam ideology? Well, we all know it's because he relies on the Muslim vote. And he doesn't want to do anything to upset even the moderate Muslim. So he'll avoid that issue altogether. And for evidence that Keir Starmer is relying on the Muslim vote, just take a listen to this former Labour councillor talking about it.
So essentially what had been happening was the mosque has an arrangement with the Labour Party controlled council. The council had secretly funded the mosque. The mosque was run by members of the Labour Party. The MP would come and visit the mosque, and there was a cosy arrangement through which the mosque then supplied postal votes. And what I'm sharing with you is something that I've now discovered takes place across the country in an identical way. Maybe not the funding bit, but the way in the relationship between mosques, the Labour Party, and the supply of postal votes.
Would the people at the top of the Labour Party be aware of this?
Yeah, of course, 100%.
Starmer would know this is going on
100%.
and welcome it perhaps because it's more votes.
So this is what was happening at a mosque in Oldham, and essentially it happens up and down the country. So what do we do about it? Well, firstly, we call it out for what it is. Name radical Islamist ideology. You cannot fight an enemy unless you know who the enemy is, and the enemy is the ideology. Let's be clear about that. The second thing is we call out our leaders when they fail to apply justice, when they fail to call out these things. And that's what this video is about. And I encourage you to share it and do the same thing. The third thing we do is we need to raise Christian witness in this country. Unfortunately, what's happened is that a spiritual vacuum has been created. The new atheist movement made a lot of people think that all religions were essentially just foolishness. They're all as stupid as each other, and we need to move away from it. That created the opportunity for Islam to take more foothold in public life and especially in our political class. What we need to show is not only is Christianity better and more beautiful, but it's also true and worth defending. And that begins in our homes. It begins with our children, with our friends, with our family, with our colleagues. We need to tell people that Christ is king, that Christ is true, and that this great nation was made great by a fundamental belief in the one true God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And that also includes reaching out to many Muslim people and calling them away from Islam and calling them to Christ. I hope this video has left you feeling informed and encouraged to fly the banner for Christ. I'll see you in the next video. Peace and blessings.